It has been over a decade since we have seen the vibrance of a Metroid game, which is one of Nintendo's largest ever franchises. For a very significant time, we all thought the series had been abandoned entirely, and now we were itching for a brand new title that returns to form, to inject ourselves into rapid-paced, high-octane action. We got that fix, from a cold announcement from a Nintendo Direct earlier this year. I'm Tom from Adamo Gaming, and I'll be your host today for our overview of Metroid Dread. For those who are unaware of the Metroid franchise, or have simply forgotten, Metroid is a series of 2D puzzle platformer games with the element of platform shooting. This all started way back in 1986 with the first ever title, simply titled Metroid. This then sprung into a sequel, appropriately named Super Metroid, and then a variety of side stories included Metroid Prime, which is a first-person shooter, and Federation Forces. Like most other Metroid games, Samus has once again lost all of her abilities, and it is up to you to assist her in getting them back so you can save the universe once again. With that familiarity, you'll also notice how traditional and back to form these controls are. Everything is how they're meant to be. Movement and precision combinations are easy to reach without interrupting your pace, whilst attacks and dashing are within the same realm without forcing you to go out your way to process a specific action without the space to do so. These controls are very basic when you were first thrown into the title, yet these controls are extended the more you play, as you'll unlock more abilities and tools for your journey that will require more control. They're extremely easy to follow and you'll know exactly how to play and what you'll be doing. When abilities are unlocked later, the HUD will provide instructions on how these work and then provide a scenario where the controls will be used. This is fantastic game design. You can work and ease into the controls at your own pace before really being thrown into a challenge. It is a very good job that these controls are clean because, oh boy, this game is brutally difficult. Metroid Dread can become very challenging very quickly, even as early as the first boss of the game. You're really required to be on your feet at all times when you're traversing through the stages. It really doesn't help that I generally suck at this game, like most platformers, but your mileage will vary on the difficulty. But I personally love this challenge. That being said, the more you unlock, the more difficult this game can become, as you'll be required to utilise your complete toolset. And trust me, you'll definitely need to know how to use these effectively for the best chance at beating it. You'll see some familiar items, and there are some new ones too. Some difficulty aspects do also come from the timing of certain movement mechanics, and this is noticeable if you begin to panic like how I did most of the time when the game becomes very intense. The most noticeable timing difficulties can be seen in the double jumping mechanics. This ties into the boss fights too, and damn, these are extremely good boss fights. Each one is so unique and provide their own challenge that it has always kept me on my toes, just grasping to see what other ideas that were thrown at me. It is truly a work of art how clean these fights can be, despite how difficult they are. The double jump ability returns from Fusion and Mission Zero, yet the timing is back to being quite strict. There is only a specific time window when you can activate a second jump. This has resulted in me countlessly making an accidental move, such as ledge grabbing instead of mantling over a platform. It does take a moment or so to get used to. The challenge is some of the best parts about the entire title, from battles with the various enemy creatures to the puzzles that you will bump into that will really get your brain gears turning. This game is very traditional to Metroid, defining that it is very fast paced with the emphasis on precise movement and smart puzzle solving, and there are plenty of paths and routes you can take that fulfill these ideas. Each stage is unique and it tells a story with the progression that represents the pace of the actual world you go and explore. When you explore, some enemy choices can be a little strange and others may be a slight copy of one another, but they change their behaviour just slightly enough so they have a different counter. This isn't a bad thing, as reusing assets in games is a common technique used to save development time, but it is a minor detail you'll notice as you progress. On the contrary, no enemy is undefeatable and each have their own weaknesses that can be exploited. All of them can also be stunned using a melee attack if they're countered at the right time, and each enemy has their own timings that you can experiment with. Each attack the player can conduct will provide a different result. Be mindful of the hitboxes too. They are based around the models of the entity itself and are very precise. This makes you harder to hit, yes, however hostiles are also subjected to this benefit. Precision is key and aiming with the controller can cause difficulties with fast-paced environments. Ask any Call of Duty player ever. This will simply take practice. The amount you have available to you in your arsenal are not easy to use in conjunction to one another. You will need to memorise their strengths and have at least some skill involved to use them on a whim, which you'll be doing a lot, especially later on in the game when you reach the extreme territories that Metroid is famously known for. You can easily squeeze over 40 hours of playtime here, and that is not including all the times that you'll be getting your booty kicked due to its challenges and the skill that you'll need to take with you. This is how long it took me to complete the main story, but there are still so many more things you missed or were inaccessible early in the game that you'll want to go back to after the matter to collect some goodies. So far, so good, but it's time to discuss the elephant in the room, the Emmys, or the EMMIs. These were revealed in the initial trailer for the game, and they are just as predominant as you imagine them to be. I am on the fence of their addition. The Emmys add a brand new form factor to the Metroid series that I do not think has ever been done in the franchise before, and it adds horror aspects within the atmosphere, and this is done really well. Each stage has an Emmy zone where these robot hybrid creatures roam around, immediately hunting down the players based on their last known location, until they have been found. Then you are placed in an intense chase to not get caught. They will instantly annihilate you when you are caught, but there is a very small window that you can use to parry their attack and escape their grips, so you have time to make a booking for the exit of the particular area. Not only does this add strategy, but it also forces you to move, keeping the speed element running even throughout these zones. That isn't saying that these bosses are flawless. In some situations it does become a game of cat and mouse where you'll be forced to trial and error your route, which can disrupt your flow. The map you are given only updates once you've explored these areas, and these can take up to half of the stage sometimes. I personally found this tedious, as you'll end up in unavoidable situations before resetting and trying again using a different route. This mileage will vary, but at the same time, until you manage to explore your options while making an escape, it will be a game of estimation. Regardless of these nitpicks, the actual zones themselves are designed with purpose. Whilst yes, you will be guessing your route, the journey on the way from A to B is filled with life. You will have a route for yourself, and a route that only the Emmy units can use, only adding flavour to these chases if you are inevitably caught. This transitions to outside of the zones too. There are no gaps in the design. Each tile that is placed has its purpose, so you will know that you are not wasting your time in a certain section. You will have to backtrack to stages you've already been to access new places now that you have the ability to do so, and this will lead to even more content. Even when backtracking through older stages during the progression of the story, there is always something that is different on your revisit. Familiar enemies will recur on these revisits, yet they have been changed to fit the theme of the stage itself. With a different moveset to match it, your immersion will never be truly broken here. Not to mention that these stages look gorgeous when they flow so well together, with the alternating paths providing a sense of purpose. This may be overwhelming at first glance as there is so much to traverse, but you can work at your own pace, whilst not disrupting your speed. They really captured a true testament to what makes a Metroid game great, and it looks the part to back it up. It maintains its serious following without sacrificing the feel of what made it fun. Whilst it definitely is not the most realistic or best looking game, the art style really captures the franchise. A high definition version of the Fusion title released back in 2002, but with even more effects and vibrant colours that really showed the world. It is clear that a ton of resources went into this title to make it look as great as it possibly could. At least in handheld mode. Yeah, the game doesn't look amazing when it is docked. Several anti-aliasing issues are prevalent during gameplay, and there does seem to be some bloom on entity models, especially around the head of Samus in some of the cutscenes. Unfortunately, this is how the Switch upscales the resolution when it is docked onto a larger display. Some games look great and are optimised well, whilst others are not so much. Metroid Dread unfortunately falls into the latter, so playing in handheld mode is definitely better for the graphical quality, but may hinder overall performance since playing with a controller is the more optimal way to play. This is down to your preference, and you can outweigh this negative to your own accord. The game does not look terrible when it is docked, and certainly does look better than all of the other Metroid games combined. This is something to keep in mind when you switch it on for the first time. Even still, the colours are so vibrant and fitting, yet not too distracting and easy to follow. It is very easy to distinguish what is part of the foreground and the background, and all the entities on the screen contrast with the rest of the scenery, so your precision is not hindered due to a lack of insight. The water also looks fantastic, in case that is important to note. So, final verdict. Metroid Dread is truly fascinating and definitely the fix we have been waiting so long for. This is amazing if you're a Metroid fan, such as I, or if somebody who enjoys a challenge. This will test your patience and your skill, which may be why I consider it one of the best Metroid games ever developed. It's clean, it's quick, it's responsive, and most importantly, it's fun. For those who have never played a Metroid game before, not that I blame you for considering how long of a gap the franchise has had, then this is the perfect title to start with. It is a sequel, however your lack of knowledge on the lore from the previous games will not affect your enjoyment. The story is barely even mentioned outside of cutscenes anyway. It is not a game for everybody. It does become very intense, and this may discourage quite a few people. For casual players, this may not appeal to you directly, but it is worth the try. I can assure you that you will not be disappointed. Metroid Dread receives a shiny 4.2 out of 5 stars from us here at Adamo Gaming. We've went through the good, the bad and the ugly, but now I want to hear your opinions down below. Are you enjoying Metroid Dread? Do you have any criticisms that I may have missed? We'd love for you to get involved into the conversation. If you enjoyed this video and wish to see more content from us, then be sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button and turn on the little bell to be notified for our next upload. Do not forget to check out our other socials too. All the links you need will be found in the description below. Get involved, we would love to have you on board. Thank you all for watching, see you next time.